On the air, on your phone, and online, it's classic hits of the 60s, 70s, and 80s on 1240 The Brew. 1240 KOKL, Okmulgee, Oklahoma.
SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. SJ, Stongo, Gary Fife, Jahu Jifkados.
Darren DeLon, J.O. Jeff Kados.
And sitting in as our special guest today is Mr. Mark Williams.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Okay. We have the Halloween holiday coming up pretty quick, just around the corner here, so that's what we're doing today. We'll be talking to Mark about his latest production, and if you were with us last year, or over the last year rather, we talked to him about his productions looking at the paranormal events happening in some churchyards, and he's got, I guess, round two, another production coming out where we'll be talking about that today, and we'll be speaking with a pastor of the grounds where he worked, which was a very fortunate thing that just sort of materialized out of nothing there, so we hope we'll get lots of that. Okay, well, to start off today, our sidewalk superintendent report on the council house. It is a cool and crisp
morning.
And the fence is down around the council house, so I guess they did that over the holidays, over the Chili Festival?
I think so. I think that's what Brooksy, thank you. They pulled those down. I'm kind of glad. I mean, honestly, when you drive by it so much, you don't even recognize it. And then one day you just look over there and like, hey, the fence are finally down. I'm like, great. I'm like, progress.
Yes, and so it's looking pretty sharp over there. So I'm hoping that they will finish up the interior work and we can wander back in and take a look at it.
Definitely.
Okay, well, let's get on with it. First of all, we'll introduce, you want to do the honors for Mr. Williams?
Yeah, of course, we all mentioned Mark Williams, a good friend of mine. He's director, producer, Mr. Everything when it comes to making of what we call the Native American Paranormal Project. And Mark, how are you doing? And could you please tell us a little bit about the NAP, if you don't mind?
First of all, again, thanks for having me on the show. I'm very excited for today, especially because we are premiering our latest paranormal documentary called The Old Schoolhouse tonight in Tahlequah. And so Native American Paranormal Project is a documentary series I started in 2011, and it was supposed to have been just kind of a one-time thing, I've been, up until that point, I've been doing narrative films, short films, feature films, and writing and directing, writing the script. I've never done a documentary before, and it was around this time of the year I was in between projects and thinking of something else to do, and kind of just wanted to take a stab at doing a documentary. But I didn't know what the subject would be about. And then a friend of mine, Happy Free Joe, we was watching one of those cable TV shows. I think it was Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures, one of those shows, and we just thought how interesting it would be to see natives doing something like that, but going just to native locations. And so we said, well, let's go do it. Let's shoot one. And so we went to Concho, to the Concho boarding school over there in El Reno. And again, it's supposed to be kind of just a one-time thing. We got some team members from Facebook and went out there, and we premiered it in Oklahoma City, and the turnout was just amazing. We had to turn people away at the door, and we didn't even promote it too much. I guess just word got out, and so people wanted to see more. And then so a second one came out, then a third and a fourth, and now we're up to our sixth feature documentary. We've got about 5 or 6 short documentaries as well, too. So this is our latest one, and so I'm very excited about it.
Before we get any further, I'd like to invite listeners to give us a call here today if you want to take part in our discussion. It won't be entirely about this particular film, but also paranormal in general, particularly in Creek Country.
Yeah.
So if you've had an experience that you want to share, or you have a question you'd like to ask Mark Williams, please give us a call. Our number here is, of course, 918-756-3646 to take part in our discussion. We invite you all to do it. And if you got people who want to listen in but don't have a radio, it's 1240thebrew.com. Anyway.
Mark, I wanted to bring up, yours is, whenever you do these documentaries, it's specifically for areas that were, American Indian, that where they stayed, where they dwelled at. Is that correct? Could you go into a little bit more detail whenever y'all brought that up, got that going?
Well, for me, I kind of look at it in two ways. As a documentary filmmaker and as a storyteller. So me, I kind of look at the story first. Everybody has a suggestion as far as a place that's supposed to be haunted or has paranormal activity. We go beyond that. I try to pick a location that has a deep history, sometimes a history that people don't know about or it's just not written about in history books. That's one of the reasons we've done quite a few boarding schools. And so through that part, we're able to kind of give the past a voice and talk about some truths that maybe some people don't want to talk about. And so the first portion of the documentary is history related. We don't even mention anything about paranormal stuff yet. Mm-hmm. And one of the purposes of doing that is because I kind of look at it as a big picture. When you come to our screenings and if you say we go to a location and nothing happens, okay, and we captured nothing, and we put it out there on Facebook, we're going to somewhere, we're shooting our next movie, we're shooting our next documentary, so people know about it. So we cannot just not show it. Mm-hmm. So they know we have something coming up. And so if they come to our screening and nothing happens and they walk away, they can walk away kind of feeling bummed. They're thinking, oh man, I was hoping to hear an EVP or see apparitions or something. Well, the way I see it is if they walked away having learned something, something about a particular boarding school or something about a particular past about a Native community, at least they walked away with something. And so that's kind of the way I see it. If we capture something that's great, that's just bonus for me. We've been fortunate so far to have always gotten something on our investigations.
Yeah, but if not, it's always good to let the people leave with more knowledge about that particular area.
Right.
Let's bring up about the one that's going to be coming out today. And I'm saying this correct, the old schoolhouse. Is that correct? The
old schoolhouse, right?
Could you tell us a little bit about that one?
The old schoolhouse is it's about a building. They call it the old Bacone House, and it is currently used as the Center for Tribal Studies over on Northeastern State University's campus. Now, the reason we call it the old schoolhouse is because that's pretty much what it started out as. In the 1890s, it opened up as an orphanage at first. A lot of kids were without parents after the Civil War, and Cherokee children didn't have any place to be or to live, and so this orphanage opened up. And eventually, a man by the name of Alman C. Bacone came in and started Indian University, and right there in Tahlequah, in this building. In 1895, he took Indian University to Mvskoke, and they renamed it Bacone, which is where people know where Bacone College is now. It's named after him. But what they don't know a lot of times is it started out in Tahlequah as Indian University. And so I think just based on that history and kind of a tribute to him, they call that building the old Bacone House. After Indian University left, it became Cherokee Academy for a while. And so they brought in students. When they first opened up, I think they had like 3 students. And then at some point, it got up to like 90. So it had a part in Cherokee history and education. And so it did start off as, as an orphanage, but also as a schoolhouse. And so after the turn of the century, it became some private residents owned it for a while. until the 80s is when NSU bought it back. But it started off as a schoolhouse, and I was going to name it. Usually, if we can name a location or a documentary about the actual name of the building, we try to, like with Gristle Mansion and stuff like that. But with Bacone, here in Oklahoma, you know how to pronounce Bacone. You know how to pronounce it. If we send this out to other film festivals around the country, I know they're going to say bacon. And so I know right off the bat,
I've heard them both. Yeah,
and so I know right off the bat we're going to have to deal with that. So just to avoid that, I didn't call it the old Bacone House, and the old school house. It kind of just seemed to fit, and kind of gave it to me. It kind of sounded even creepy as well.
Let me ask you a general question that kind of asks you about your approach to a subject. We have seen and heard a lot of other shows about the paranormal, this and that, and even got a couple of guys, brothers that are going in to find these things. When you hear of a story or a subject or learn of something like that, how do you decide whether or not it's worth pursuing? I mean, I guess what defines paranormal for you, first of all?
Usually just the backstory. When we get people who message us or email us, I start talking to them and just see how often it occurs. You also kind of, have to look at the credibility of the person who's telling the story. 'Cause some people just think every noise is something. Yeah. And so you kind of have to do your own research as well. And so I look at that, and then I ask about just the backstory, the history to it, and what influence did it have on not just you, but on the Native community there. How thorough or how deep is this history? Do a lot of people know about this? And it's something that people can relate to. And so I just look at it from a broad look as far as the story. So yeah, it's two parts for me, not just the paranormal, but also just the history part of it too. And sometimes more than just if there's enough people, like what they do with the Bacone House. It was a lot of common things you hear: doors opening, footsteps, voices, which is kind of common. But the fact that it was so many people, so many staff members over the years have seen it, and recalled kind of the same stories over and over and over, there's some substance there. There's something there. And so that's what kind of brought me over to that one.
Let me follow up here. Is there something about Native culture and heritage that makes a difference there? I mean, stories that are really Indian, unquote, unquote, or just something somebody kind of thinks might be. I mean, is there a real difference that you've detected or that you might look for?
If I think I'm understanding you right, I think there's a difference. Like, whenever we go to a location, because we're an all-Native group, we approach it differently. There's a different mindset with us, as opposed to what you see on TV. It's about ratings. It's about kind of almost shock value a little bit. People who have seen our documentaries, they kind of see where we come from. Even the way we ask questions, there's more respect there. And I think it's because we come at it from a respectful mindset, but also there's a sincereness about it.
Yeah.
Because we know what happened there. Sometimes it could be our ancestor that was at that location. So there's a deeper connection with us. Like, for example, with Wheelock, I had family that went there. We have some Choctaw team members who, we're able to speak our native tongue at these locations and ask questions in our native tongue. And there's just a deeper connection to that, where I think if it was an all-white group that went there, it's a different approach, So we are more, at that point, I think we're more storytellers than anything.
It would seem like then if this white group were to go in, it might sort of trample on a lot of things.
Yeah, and they might not treat it the same way. And like with Wheelock, I know for sure 2 shows did call trying to get access over there. Choctaw Nation owns Wheelock, and they just literally hung up on them, denied them. They were not allowed to come there and film. we come calling, they give us full access to everything.
That's great to hear. I was going to throw that in there. Yeah.
I was sitting here smiling too.
You know, Mark, you brought up about with Wheelock, you were able to speak in your native language, which is awesome to hear. Same with the Grisso Mansion. That's owned by the Seminole Nation. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. If I remember that documentary right, it might have been Brian Frijo. He was speaking, and he spoke a lot of Creek and Seminole, and it was awesome to hear that, to him to be able to speak, because I know, if I'm remembering correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a certain part in there where there's like a little boy, because he kept on saying Chobani, throughout that time. It's pretty cool to like hear that. I mean, it's not just English whenever y'all go to these places. If y'all learn the language, or if y'all know the language, y'all's able to speak that.
Yeah, and it's actually a key. So Marcus, which is Brian's brother,
I'm sorry,
that went on that investigation. But yeah, so the Free Joes, they're Pawnee and they're Seminole, and so they're able, excuse me, they're able to talk in Seminole and ask questions, in Seminole, and there's just a certain way that natives talk, and the way we kind of relate to each other, I think, and that's why I think we get responses the way we do, and also the way we approach it, everything too. So it's not about just asking questions; it's about asking the right questions the right way. And so I think sometimes speaking our native tongue, I think, helps that. And so yeah, with Grisso, with the Rock Springs Indian Baptist Church, which is a Seminole church, kind of a segue into what we have coming up later. But we were smooth. And so we there were stories about it's a Seminole church, old Seminole church, and so whenever there would be Seminole singing, things tend to start happening. And so we had the pastor of the church come out that night and sing for us. And so I don't know. I think maybe that would be, if it was a white group, maybe they wouldn't think about that. They would just think about, let's capture something and try to shoot something. But we brought in, Seminole singers, and people could speak it.
Before we go to our next part, I really wanted to bring up, and we can touch base on it later on in the show. On this one, this was the first time, and I mean, I think it was cool. Y'all used the cameras, y'all used the EVP, the recordings, but you also did something else that was very, very, to me, monumental. Y'all used what we call Facebook Live. Facebook Live is one of the, a lot of people do it nowadays, just to go live, just to show what's going on.
Yeah.
But y'all did it, and with this, and for something that has to go overnight, y'all had the viewers. Y'all had the people tuning in.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, so we started about 11:30, 12 o'clock. So from, I think from like 12 to 3 was live, just different portions of the investigation. Excuse me. And 2 o'clock in the morning, when you're on live, you can see who's viewing it, who's commenting, that kind of stuff. 2 o'clock in the morning, we have 10,000 people watching.
Wow.
The video stream.
All right. Go ahead, Gary.
We have been kind of alluding to and kind of almost mentioning one of the subjects of your latest production. We have joining us on the line Mr. Jimpsy Harjo from Rock Springs Baptist, and he worked with you, I understand. Mr. Harjo, are you with us, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay, HJ.
Still
No, head of my hay. We have Mark Williams in here in the studio, and we're talking about his latest production down there. Now, for him to come down there has to be some kind of story or happenings going on that would stir the interest, make it worth their time and effort to come down and share this. Can you recall what it was that you talked about and what you focused on during this production?
Yeah, it was just like there are a lot of stuff that was seen down there among not only me, but among the members, and like the ones that was there before, and they kind of seen them around, and then not only them, but other stuff. I guess you can say other people that are from, that people seen, different places.
Now, when you mention these people, are we talking about those who have passed on and may still be there in spirit?
Yes, yeah. You know, at one time, there's a camp house right in front of the church house, just a little ways from in front of the church house. And one evening when I was there and at the camp house, the doorway, you know, I just happened to turn around and looked over there, and you know, I seen the old pastor that used to be pastor there, you know, George W. Harjo, and I knew that was the figure that I seen. I knew that was him, and I remember seeing that there, you know.
Were you surprised, shocked, scared?
All
of the above?
I was surprised, you know. I wasn't scared, but I was surprised because I knew who it was, and you know, he used to be a pastor there. You know, but you know, I was surprised. You know, that's the first time that was my first time, you know, seeing something like that. I heard a lot of noises, you know, like cars pulling up and doors closing, and you know, people talking, children, you know, playing, hollering. But you know, I just heard them. I never, you know, seen them. But this one here, you know, I seen it myself. You know, it's kind of surprised.
I can guess so. Now we have sitting with us Mark Williams, who was down there to document this kind of thing. Now, let me ask Mark, what ran through your mind when you heard this information, these stories?
Again, kind of like what I discussed with the old school house. There were just so many stories, and with this location, what Mr. Harjo was talking about, you know, he wasn't the only one that would see the first pastor there. You know, there were other people who would see him at the camp house, just on the church grounds, and so it was just stories like that. Hearing the footsteps, hearing kids playing, hearing the singing. And something that Mr. Harjo just mentioned a while ago is what really drew me to it, is he said he wasn't scared. And that was kind of the consensus when I talked to the other church group, the members. And it was more, if anything, almost a comfort feeling, because these are former church members that they knew as elders when they were kids. These are grandmas and grandpas and uncles and aunties that are buried out there that, you know, it's almost like whenever they are having service and they're worshiping and fellowshipping, former church members, family, they just want to fellowship too. And so they're there, they're singing. They just want to be amongst, you know, their people. And so there really isn't a reason to be scared. And so, and I kept hearing that a lot whenever I was speaking with Mr. Harjo and other church members there. Was, you know, they welcomed, almost welcomed them there, almost like welcomed them, because this is their home, you know. So
that's pretty amazing to hear that.
This question is for both of y'all, Jim C. and Mark. That is there like something? Is there like one thing that just stuck out, I guess, during the investigations? I guess during that time that just sticks with you, that you just still remember clearly? And this question is for both of y'all.
Well, I think for me would be that camp house. There were just so many stories that was kind of tied to that, and you know, with George Harjo being the very first pastor there, and his family being associated with the camp house for so long, there's so much attachment to it. We kept getting a lot of our some of our responses at that camp house, the noises, the whispers, and then one of the more clear apparitions or shadows, if you will, what took place right there in front of that camp house. And it was something that one of our team members, Steve Jacob, captured, and not even mean to. He was just pretty much setting up his camera on a tripod, and this shadow, you know, popped up. and it looked like a little girl. And so that was one of the ones that really kind of stuck out with me. And so just the activity, everything we just kind of seemed to be focused around the front of that church is what kind of stood out for me.
James, is there anything that stuck out with you? I mean, I know you spoke about the previous pastor that's still there. Or is there, oh, let me ask this. Is there still anything going on right now, currently, that you know of?
Well, it's just like Mark said, it's mostly the kids. You know, just the other night, as we were having our prayer service night, one of the members, heard, kids talking outside. And, we didn't have no kids there. But that still goes on. Seems like there's, more kids there than, anything else.
With these kids, if y'all can understand them, if they're just playing, are they speaking Creek Seminole, or are they speaking English, or are y'all able to tell what they are saying?
No, they're just laughing and, hollering, kind of like they're, chasing each other.
Oh.
That's the noise that they make, we don't hear them talking or anything, but,
Okay.
they're just laughing and, hollering.
And if they're having a good time, why mess with them?
Yeah.
It's a great time.
Yeah, just playing it.
Yeah.
Let me toss this one in. Is there something about the church or the religious activity you think that might attract this kind of activity? I'll ask both of you here now. Is it because it's a church, or services going on and that kind of thing, or some other thoughts perhaps? Jimsy, let me ask you first.
Okay, what's that now?
Is it because it's a church? Do you think because it's a church that it draws this energy and this activity?
Yeah, I believe so, because when it first started, there used to be a lot of members there, almost a church full, and kids too, some kids was there, and it seemed like that's what's, sticking around, because I remember when I was a deacon, go out there and worked on the church ground, and, you hear singing in church, and I knew there was, nobody in there, it was just me out there. But I used to hear things like that, singing and people talking, So I believe it's just, the ones that used to be there,
Jimsy, this is Darren DeLon again. I wanted to ask or play off that question. Do you feel that, with the spirits or that energy that they have, do you feel like it's that church is, or they think it could be a safe haven? I mean, this is your opinion. Do you feel that it's a safe haven for them to come there? They know the church. They know it's okay to be there. They know y'all's not going to bother them, or the Native American Paranormal Project wasn't going to bother them. Do you feel that the spirits, when they are there, because they know it's safe, or they know nothing's like, nobody's going to stir them up or upset them or anything like that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
Mark, if you can you tell our listeners what the name of this documentary was for this particular project on this one?
The one that Jim was talking
Yes.
about. It was called Our Church.
Our Church.
Our
Okay.
Church. And one of the reasons behind that name was it kind of reflected our community, our home. And kind of to answer the questions you guys just got to asking Mr. Harjo, I think it's another reason that there's so much activity there is because it is a home for them. The pastor just now talked about how a long time ago a lot of people used to come. Not so much today, but when he was younger, some of these church members who are the elders now, when they were younger, people drove for miles to come here. These camp houses, when they were more in use, was almost a second home. They would, spend days out there, living there. And not just this church, other Seminole churches, Creek churches were all like this. it was like another second community. And so it was a huge part of their lives. And so I think now that they've passed on, this is something that they loved doing, seeing other families, seeing friends, singing, cooking, eating. It's just a big part of Native lives. And so I think it is kind of a safe haven for them, something they enjoy doing. And so when they hear that singing, it just naturally wants to, they want to come out and fellowship.
We're going to ask you, Jimsy, to stay with us, and Mark, of course, you here in the studio, please. We're going to take a short pause here, and we'll be back and continue this really intriguing discussion. So, Mr. Harjo, stick with us on the phone there, and we'll be back after this short break.
Has created an online survey to get feedback from you about our coverage and operations. Participants will be entered to win artwork from Mvskoke Creek artist Dana Tiger. At the beginning, you will be asked for your name, phone number, and email. The survey consists of 18 questions that are either multiple choice or in a yes or no format. Visit www.mvskokemedia.com to participate. The survey is open November 1st through November 30th. Winners will be announced December 1st.
Hello, this is Principal Chief James Floyd of the Mvskoke Creek Nation. The excitement of football is in the air, and the nation supports all our local high school football teams and looks forward to all the excitement and action of Friday night. It's our prayer that all the athletes play hard and remain safe this 2017 football season. So from the Mvskoke Creek Nation, go team.
Okay, we're back here on Mvskoke Radio, here on 1240 The Brew. And once again, I'd like to invite listeners, if you got questions or comments about anything that's unusual that's ever happened that you remember, give us a call here. We're at 918-756-3646. That's 756-3646 here on Mvskoke Radio. Okay, let's get back to Mark Williams and Jimsy Harjo. Now, Mr. Harjo, when you heard of this Native American Paranormal Project's interest in your story down there, what did you think? What was your reaction? Were you a little skeptical? Did you welcome the idea? What happened there?
Yeah, when Mark, me and Mark talked about it, when he asked me about that, they were thinking about coming down there, And I told him it'd be all right, I didn't. He was okay with me, but I got to the church and I told them about it, and they said, "Yeah, it'd be okay." And one of the elders, or women's leader, the only thing she told me about that was the cemetery. We have a cemetery right by the church, and she asked, if they can leave that one alone. Let them, rest in peace. And that's the only thing she asked. And all the other stuff, he said it was okay with her. So I told Mark, I said, yeah, it'd be all right for y'all to come down.
Well, Mark, let me ask you, when you approach a project and a contact person like Mr. Harjo, what things go through your minds? What things do you think about being sensitive about, or perhaps where you shouldn't go, like this cemetery? Right. Is that a natural? I mean, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, definitely. You think about that. You want to be respectful of the location that you go to. Make sure we're telling the story the right way. So whenever I approached Mr. Harjo about this during one of their services, he had me come up to the front and talk about it. And so you're sitting there in church, and you have these other elders looking up at you, and I get kind of nervous because I don't want to say anything wrong, and because you're always taught to respect your elders, and so that's what I'm doing. But I really wanted to shoot this movie here, so whatever they wanted us to do as far as saying don't go into this building, or maybe don't do this, don't do that, then we were definitely going to do. They mentioned the cemetery, and so if you watch the documentary, there's not one. We didn't go there that night as far as investigating anything, nothing like that. So we definitely respected his wishes and the churches as well. And so that's pretty much one of the priorities as far as making these documentaries is we are respectful of the location, the history, and the people that's actually involved there now.
that goes into I think a lot of the other shows that just go into it for the ratings. I don't think they would. I don't think they would respect those wishes at all. So good to hear that. I mean, plus, we don't want to, like take none of these spirits home because, like I said, they probably would get upset and they probably would want to
get even
somehow. So it's probably the best thing to do that. But yeah, that was great to hear. I mean, if there's any restrictions, y'all do obey what they have to say on that.
Let me ask you both once again, Mr. Harjo. Was there any opposition to this project? I mean, somebody who might have come up a little later and say, "Well, we don't want them coming down here and poking into our affairs." Or Mark, have you run into opposition on projects like this? Let's start with Mr. Harjo. Was there somebody who said no?
No, everybody was agreeable. Everyone kind of liked the idea of the Mark and them coming down and doing that. Yeah, they enjoyed it.
And did you enjoy the experience of working with them?
Yes. When Mark asked me to come down, and I believe they just wanted me to open it with a prayer. And they didn't expect me to stay there all night. When I opened up a prayer, and I didn't want to leave. I just want to see what was going to happen. I just want to see what was going on. So I just stayed with them all night long.
Oh gosh, it'd be tough for me, man. I tell you, I get pretty sleepy about 10 o'clock. Mark, let me ask you that same question. Opposition on this project, or has there been opposition on any of the other projects?
On this project, no, not really. Once we had their blessing and we was going forward with the project, the only opposition I think of anything was with other churches, and that was because they didn't get back to me. When we was trying to do a church documentary, kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, the history of the location. I wanted to tell the history of these old Indian churches, and so Seminole and Creek churches. So I contacted quite a few pastors and churches in the Seminole and Creek country areas, and nobody really said no. But they said, we have to get back to you, we have a meeting or something like that, we said, we'll let you know. And so it got closer and closer to October, and we was trying to release this by October. And so I was like, you know what, we got to make a move. We got to go shoot something. And by this time, Jimsy already said, yeah, you guys can come here. And we wanted to do at least 3 or 4 churches and make it into one documentary, maybe 2 Seminole churches and 2 Creek churches. But that just never did work out. And so we just made Rock Springs the main subject on this one. Once word got out that we was actually doing this documentary, we was putting out pictures and teaser trailers. Now all of a sudden, all the other churches contacted me and said, "Come do ours now." And so there was never any kind of opposition. It was just maybe we just didn't hear back from some of them right away. As far as the whole project in general, every now and then we might get someone who say we shouldn't be doing this or shouldn't be making these types of films. But I think a lot of times it's because they associate paranormal groups with what they see on TV. Mm-hmm. And we've had some who, once they see that we're doing a screening, will say, we're going to be there and, we're going to pretty much voice our opinion and, we're against this. And when they come to the screening, and they see what the movie's actually about, and they watch it for themselves, they have a change of heart. We've had some where they say they're going to come and be there, and they find me after the screening, and then they shake my hand and say, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was like this. We thought it was going to be like, what we saw on TV, where it's just all hype and music, and it's not like that.
Dramatic events. Either of you guys get scared at any point?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we get asked that a lot, and for me, I am maybe not as much just because I'm in production mode the whole time, And so I'm thinking, how much time do we got to get to the next location? Are we getting the good shots? How's the lighting? How's sound? So I'm thinking I'm kind of in production mode the whole time. But every now and then, when I kind of stop to think about where we're at and what's happening, then it kind of gives you the creeps and everything. But I'm just in a different mindset when I'm actually out there filming.
So now you know what it's like to maybe produce this show. Mr. Harjo, real quick, and I know Darren's got a good question, but was there any time you got scared?
Sometimes, I get a funny feeling, but it's just like I was saying there, so I kind of figured who it is, some of the church members there, because, they don't mean no harm. So I kind of brushed it off a little bit. And as it went on, and I just kind of got used to it. And I can go out there at nighttime and just, spend some time out there and come home.
My question is not really related to that. My question is, where's your church located at, preacher? And could you tell our audience where you are located at?
Well, it's 16 miles south. You go 16 miles south of Mvskoke, and then you'll come into the little town called Mvskoke.
Oh yeah.
When you get to Mvskoke, it's 5.5 miles west of Mvskoke, and it's on the right-hand side.
I love those directions. I really do. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just all big into rural churches, rural church, and we have to give directions like that. It's perfect.
Yeah, this one really is. It's out there, pretty much middle of nowhere. Like he has a sign at the driveway, but it's hard to see the church from the road too, from the highway. And if you don't see the sign, you'll drive right past it. So.
Keep driving till you see that spot where that old tree used to be. Oh gosh.
Mark, I want to bring up the new movie that you're going to be showing here pretty soon. What we talked about earlier, the old school,
the old schoolhouse.
The old schoolhouse. My apologies. On this one, you talked about the history and what. Numerous people have been through over the years, and now when it comes on that night, we talked about the Facebook Live. What stood out? Was there one thing that stood out? I know there's a couple things that y'all came across, and I'll explain what one thing that I stuck out whenever I watched it. But what's the one thing that stuck out with you, or the series of things?
I think the thing that kind of stuck out was. We were actually hearing things. When we first got there, we was hearing things with our own ears. A lot of times when we capture something, it's through playback. Mm-hmm. We play back the footage and we think, oh, well, did you hear that? We play it back, and then, we go back into that room and maybe we ask more questions. When we got there, we was hearing things just right away. Footsteps, doors opening. Happy saw someone standing in the kitchen. It just started happening kind of pretty much right away, and so I think that's what kind of stood out, that this was a pretty active place. And when you look at it, you've seen the documentary, it's not really creepy looking. It's well kept. They use it for, like I said, the Center for Tribal Studies, so they keep it well kept. And so it doesn't give you a really creepy vibe when you're there, but sometimes you just know when you're not alone. And I think right off the bat we was hearing things and just seeing. And one thing that maybe added to it was
welcome
really
to Mvskoke Radio,
and it just
your
added
weekly
to that
source
factor.
for tribal and community news,
maybe right
interesting guests and discussions,
lightning hits and
plus
flashes
a local
outside,
host
and so it's almost led to almost like a movie.
And Jimsy, this question is for you, and then Mark, please answer. Why do y'all feel, with these spirits, why do you feel the energy comes more at night, in the nighttime instead of the daytime? Why do you think, I guess, that energy is a lot more, of course, at night, and I guess when everybody's
welcome
sleeping?
to this week's
do y'all
edition
have
of
an
Seat
opinion
of
on
Your
that? And
Pants
Gypsy,
Radio.
I'll ask you that first.
We've got some wonderful things we had lined up to talk about the upcoming festival, which is the end of next week. And the crew that we had lined up from Tourism and Recreation have got a couple of other things
car pulling up.
have occupied their time at the moment,
come
so
out
they're doing a
looking
bit
at
of
me,
scrambling
nothing
also.
there.
We were going to
and
talk
that time
about today
seemed like
about the lineup
there's
of the
more
program,
coming at
what
night.
we've got, any changes, things we need to be aware of. And first of all, we would like to say that once again,
let
with
them
the
say,
wonderful
the other night,
cooperation of Brooks Brewer here at
couple months ago,
1240 The Brew,
we had a
we will be broadcasting
it was our
live
church
from the
meeting. We
festival
had our
grounds
service
on
there.
Friday morning.
One of the members
So
was
there
sitting
will
out
be
in the
no
car
show
with our
on
kids.
Wednesday morning, next
And,
Wednesday,
we have
but there will be
fellowship hall behind the
the
church.
live broadcast
And,
from the festival Friday morning,
Kids that happen to
which is
look
kind
up,
of a quiet time there. So if
on
you've
the
got nothing to
fellowship
do and you're
hall,
wandering
she
around,
seen two elderly ladies
come by the festival
walking
grounds, say
towards
howdy,
the
and
church.
maybe say hello to our
And she
listeners.
sat there and looked. And
In the meantime, we're
Yeah, we
making
have
it up
two
as we
trees
go, as
up
I
by the
say.
church.
Well, let me
when
share
they got
some
by the
community
first one,
announcements here. We kind of
and
make
after
things
that,
upside down
you know,
here on our
they
show.
just, I guess you can say they just
Kind of some
disappeared.
of the things that we've been awful
And,
pressed
she'll tell me
to
about that
put
after
out,
church,
but we
you know.
haven't exactly had the time.
Yeah,
First of all, here's a
you
salute
see
to our
more at
wonderful
nighttime.
Muskogee Youth, the Muskogee Youth Awards
The
Banquet
question
is
goes for
coming
you,
up
Mark,
June
especially
20th.
with
That'll
not
be
only
that's
for
a
our church, but
Tuesday
the
at 6
schoolhouse,
p.m.
you know,
at the
like,
Muskogee Dome.
you said it was on the old schoolhouse. It was an active,
That's
it was
to
like immediately,
celebrate
like you just
the
noticed it right away.
wonderful
Whenever y'all showed
achievements
up there,
of the
was it
youth
during the
visionaries
daytime
and the
and
old
like
who
or
helped
dusk?
the young,
Yeah,
as
it
well
was
as
about
members
dusk,
of the
and,
Muskogee
when we
Nation
got there,
Youth
we was
Council.
loading
My wonderful
up
group.
equipment.
Tickets are on
I
sale
think,
for $10 and can be purchased at their
Based on my research and things that we've kind of
youth services
experienced,
office here in downtown Old
spirits,
Milwaukee,
or
or
they're
at the
basically
door.
that it's energy,
And
and
if you're
they're
interested,
trying to
you can give them a
manifest. And
call
I think they
at
feed off of our energy.
918-549-2557
And so I think just
if you
naturally,
have questions or
we
need
all
more
seen scary
information.
movies and horror movies, and so when
Okay, let's see
you
what else we got.
go into location,
All right.
especially if a place you've never been to before,
For all of you
and the lights are
basketball
off,
fiends
and
out there,
you don't know
a
what's
3-on-3
behind the door,
tournament coming up Saturday,
just naturally
June the
you get kind of
17th.
nervous and scared,
where
and that's
we go?
energy being built
9
up.
a.m.
And
Muskogee
they feed
Dome
off of
at
that,
the,
and so it helps
Bloods
them
Complex.
manifest as
And,
well. And
we're
want to come
looking
out. So I
at,
think maybe that's what helped leads into why do you see it
having
more
them
at
come in.
night.
So we're going to
It's
take a short
because
pause while
it's
we
you
rearrange
sometimes.
ourselves.
Not really
and,
knowing this, but you kind
be
of
right
want to
back
see
with
it
you.
sometimes.
The one
One Fire Casino in Okmulgee offers Ladies' Day every Monday with $5 match play. VIP days for seniors on
we heard
Tuesdays,
some type of
lunchtime
scream,
match
and,
plays
he
on
turned his
Tuesdays and
head
Thursdays, and several other great drawings
but
and
he
prizes
played
throughout
it
the
over
weekend.
and over.
Don't forget to take
that
advantage of
was
spinning
like,
the wheel on Sundays
that
to
one
win
would've
up to
got me.
$5,000 cash.
And
Be sure to
he
check out
heard
the
that
daily
with his
meal
own ears,
specials
and that
at
was one of the
Silver
ones
Oak
that was
Cafe.
Facebook
There are
Live.
exciting monthly
And so
giveaways with
thousands of
extravagant
people heard
prizes.
it too.
Come and play
And
at
so
One
what was
Fire
crazy was
Casino,
he was just
where it
talking. He wasn't
really
even.
is
You
okay
saw
to
he
play
wasn't even
with
doing
fire.
investigation yet. He was just talking to the
43rd
audience.
Annual
So
Muskogee
he has
Nation
the phone
Festival
just right there in
Weekend,
front
June
of him.
22nd
He's
through
talking to
24th in
them.
Old
And all of a sudden,
Mulgee,
heard this
featuring your
voice
favorite festival
scream
events,
in the
including
hallway.
cultural activities, the
And
art market,
Brian turns
the all-Indian
around, and
rodeo
he
that
reacts
started it
to it.
all, sports
And
competitions,
what was
the
funny
parade,
was,
plus a can't-miss entertainment schedule.
we hear
Grammy
something like
Award
that,
winner
and
Leanne
even though we're
Womack headlines
paranormal
Country Night
investigators,
Friday, June 24th at 9 p.m. Saturday night, June 25th is Blues
your mind
Night,
automatically
headlined by
wants to explain
King
it
Wayne
right away,
Shepherd. For
thinking,
more
okay, it's not
information on
that, it has to be
Festival
something
Weekend,
else.
including
So Brian
schedules
thought it was
and
a
entry
cat.
forms, visit
And
creektours.com.
he said, "What is
I
that?
started
Is there a
doing it
cat
when
in
I was
here?"
11.
And so,
I wanted to be just
right
like
when he
my
said
big
that,
brother.
comments on the Facebook
And some of
Live,
my
the
friends
streamer
were
just
already
blew
doing
up,
it.
saying, "I heard
We
that,"
got
and
hooked
they were like,
fast.
"That is not a cat.
I just can't
That's
get
not a
enough.
cat. That's something."
I'm Jacob.
And that particular
And I'm
scream
addicted
happened throughout
to
the
playing
night.
the drum.
And
There's lots of stuff that
two
makes
of
it
them
cool
were
to be
captured
native.
live.
Doing math isn't
And
one
then
of them.
one of them
Find
was
something
when
better to
Happy Free
do.
Joe
Check
through
out
her cell phone camera
ncai.org.
captured one.
A message from the
And it was
Partnership
one of
for
the more
Drug-Free
creepier
America
ones
and the
where
National
it
Congress
was
of American
the scream
Indians.
actually kind of lasted for a while, and it just trailed off like something, I don't know.
All right, welcome back to our program,
almost muffled
and
it, you know, and
we're
so
making
it
some
was-
progress
it was
here in our
pretty-
Make It Up As You Go
pretty
On
amazing
program.
that
We've got
got
Ryan
that,
Logan
because those
from
are the stories
Tourism
we
and
heard from the
Recreation
staff
on the
members.
line.
They
How
hear
are you this morning,
crying
sir?
or some kind of a screaming
Good
on the
morning.
second
I
floor.
understand you're kind of
And
busy.
sure enough, it started happening.
I want
And
to
more
make sure
so
that we
than
got
just
you
us
guys
capturing
covered.
it. It
Oh,
was
well, I appreciate it so much because I was staring at about. Let me ask you about the comments. Now, first of all, my salute to you and your crew. The internet just blew up. There are a few comments that really stuck in
right off the bat, the very first one we did a group session on the very first floor, just to kind of break in the evening.
Yeah.
So we went live. Everybody had their
we
cameras
had a lot
out.
of changes
and
on
I
there,
had an
but the
audio
festival's still
recorder in
going
my
full
hand.
force.
Yeah,
And
okay, we'll come out.
Elisa Douglas
crazy
staff
and
member
mad
there
is the rest
that
of
she
your
works
crew
there.
there.
And so
Well,
she
we
came
want to
with
first of all
us,
say
and
thank you
we,
for
designated her
making
as our
time
cameraman
for
to
me
do the
this
live
morning. I know that
footage. So she had
your
my
schedule's
camera
berserk, but
going live.
we wanted to
and I had
run
the,
over
the audio
the
recorder.
schedule
So we didn't
as,
go too long, maybe
best
like 4 or
as
5
we
minutes.
can, and a few changes and
I
things that
stopped the
people need to
recording
be
on my
aware
audio,
of this year's
my digital recorder.
This year's festival.
Camera was still live.
First of all, no ice chest,
I
right?
turned
No,
to the
no
camera,
ice
speaking
chest.
to the audience. And
we
I
do
say,
allow people to
we're
bring
going to
in
play this back
drinks
for
and food
you,
or whatnot,
so you
but
can hear
the Light Horse
us
Police
review this,
cannot see
right
through
here,
them,
right
and
now.
we want to make sure it's a
So I played it back.
family atmosphere
And
and
in my
safe for
mind,
everybody. So
I'm
we do
thinking,
not allow
doing this,
alcohol on the premises.
one of the reasons I
and
wanted
that's
to
why
go
we have
live was to
unfortunately
show
ban ice
our
chest.
Right,
followers
that's how it was
kind
being,
of what it takes to make a
smuggled in.
documentary. You know, all they see is pretty much the highlights of
So,
what
folks,
happens
if
at
you're
night.
thinking about
They don't
bringing
see the
alcohol
hours
with
and
you
hours
to
that where
enjoy
nothing
a
happens,
concert
you
or
know.
so, try a soft
And so
drink or
I'm thinking,
something
okay, we
that's
just started.
available out
Nothing's
there.
going to happen.
Sorry
So
to
I wanted
say,
them kind of
no
see
ice
that,
chest,
you know,
first of
just be upfront. So
Okay, now
we
we've actually
so I had
seen the
recorder
festival
playing.
kick
I'm
off
having, I
back
hold it right in
on
front of the
June
camera,
the 3rd on
and
Saturday.
I'm playing it
We
back,
had our
and I go through the whole thing,
Miss and
and I
Junior
stop
Miss
it,
Mvskoke
and
Creek
I
Nation
said, and then
Scholarship
I stopped it, and I turned to the
at
camera and to the audience. I
at
said,
the
as you can
Dome,
tell,
and we have,
sometimes
new
we don't
royalty feature,
capture,
right?
you know,
Yes, we
we don't
do.
capture things. It doesn't happen every time.
Yeah, we're really excited to have
And
them.
so I'm
This will
talking
be
to the
their
audience like
first
that, and
festival,
as I'm
Miss
talking
and
to
Junior
them, I don't
Miss,
see the
and
comments.
they'll get to see
Comments are
festival
just
from a whole
blowing
new
up.
light, seeing the
People say, "Did you
the
not hear
rodeo
that?"
and parade and
And
whatnot. It'll be a,
apparently,
great time
when I'm
for them.
playing back the recorder,
Right. You wouldn't
Brian
happen to have some names
Frijo
handy, would you?
asked a question
I
of
sure
who was
don't.
that on the stairs.
I made sure to come over
And
to a
a
very
voice
quiet
comes
place
in
so I
here,
could have
comes
my
on
full
and says,
directions
"No
for you
one."
guys.
And I don't know why. I
Bless your
didn't
heart
hear
once
it.
again. Okay.
But
Well,
people
folks, you will see
who was
these,
watching Facebook
our
Live,
royalty this
thousands of
year,
people just commented,
many
like, it
events
said
this
no
year
one.
that-
Did you not hear
We'll try and get 'em on
that?
the-
And so,
on the program
so
here,
I was
talk
talking to the
about what they've
audience.
got
I said,
in
thank you for watching.
Okay,
Tune
moving
in
on,
for
our
in 30 more
schedule.
minutes. We're
Friday
going to go live
through
again.
Sunday, June 9th through
Thanks for
11th
watching.
is the annual
So we
golf
closed down
tournament.
that session.
A 4-person
And
scramble.
I had my
That's
laptop
at,
there
Fountainhead
and
in
hooked up to their
Chakotay.
Wi-Fi.
Yes, that was
And
this
so,
past weekend.
we walked
Friday
into the
had
to the
filled
break room
a couple
area.
of weeks before, actually.
I
So
pulled
we
up
had
our
a
Facebook
great
page
turnout.
just to
We
see
had
how many
some,
people
fun
watched it.
times down there.
All I saw was
Fountainhead
comments
had,
saying,
all the staff
"Did you
out
not
there
hear
working
that?"
really hard
And so I played
ensuring,
it back
all the
really
citizens
quick,
and
and then
guests had a
sure
good
enough,
time.
he heard it when I was
that's
playing
cool.
back that audio recorder. He says,
Moving,
"Who was down the
moving
stairs?"
along,
And the
we've
voice
got
says, "No
the
one."
slow pitch
And so,
softball tournament coming
If it
up
wasn't for
starting
the
Friday,
audience, we
correct?
probably would have missed that one.
Yes, we
Oh
just
my
got the
gosh,
brackets
yeah.
posted yesterday,
Let's,
so
let me
again, it
toss one
reinforced
more
that idea.
question at Mr.
You know, too
Harjo,
much
and then
that
we'll
the
let you go,
brackets are
sir.
posted. They're on creekfestival.com,
Does this
and they're
experience
also
working with
posted on
this crew
Facebook.
and doing this
But we have
documentation,
117 games scheduled for this weekend.
affect your beliefs in that? Do you have any let's call it that which we can't understand or explain? I presume your tournament will feel stronger about that or into the night if need be. Not strong.
Yes, yeah. Well, we utilize
Yeah,
both
yeah.
the city fields at Okmulgee.
Yeah,
There are 2
me
fields,
quite
and
a
also
bit,
R4 Clover here as well.
Understand a little more
Okay,
now.
I know that's a hugely popular sport among
I didn't-
our citizens.
I
Tell me,
didn't
I know
really
you
know
probably have been
what
pretty
was
busy
going on when I was
during the
here and all these
festivals
things
there,
and
but
seeing
do you
all
have
these
any
things.
dynasties showing
When they
up?
come down and I seen it on the deal that they was taking, So it kind of helped me out quite a bit.
Yeah, okay. Well, Jim C. Harjo, now I understand you are the pastor there at Rock Springs Baptist. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so much for making some time for us today. I know that we took a little more of your time than I had planned, but I'm so glad we did. And I want to say thank you, sir, and we'll let you go. Hope that when and if this happens again, that you'll talk to some of us, and we'll come down and talk to you there. Okay?
Okay,
All
right.
All right, Middle.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Pastor.
Okay, Mark, the same question. Does it affect your beliefs in that which we can't understand or can't explain, shall we say?
I think, if anything, maybe just reaffirms it. I've always kind of believed in it. Growing up, that's kind of what got me into this documentary series is, growing up, with Native kids, man, you start getting your family around. We start telling ghost stories after a while. I don't know why that is. We just end up telling ghost stories. And I was always kind of intrigued by that. And so I remember as a little boy, that was one of my earliest, fondest memories of hearing, my older family members, my uncles, start telling these stories. And so when it came down to do a documentary, for me, it was kind of a no-brainer of what the subject should be. And so also growing up, whenever I would hear something, a building is haunted, or they say don't go in there. There's things in there. Naturally, I go in there, and so I think I just kind of, to this day, I'm still that kid. You know, I want to go in there and see what it's all about. But back then, I kind of just did it for because it was kind of fun, kind of for the thrill. As a storyteller now, I kind of do it to document it now. So I'm still that kid, but now I just have a camera.
Quickly, Mark, you're saying you're showing this tonight. Could you let our audience know where it's going to be shown at?
Yeah, it's the Webb Auditorium in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, room 614. It's basically the 6th floor. And so, yeah, right there on campus of Northeastern State University. Okay. 5:30. 5:30. And it's free.
Okay, Mark. Mark Williams of the Native American Paranormal Project. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And hope that we will find time to come see this film. It sounds pretty intriguing. So I want to say Mado.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we better get to some announcements. We've got a stack of them here and only a short time to do it. First of all, today, the 15th annual Pink Party is going on. Survivors can register at 11 a.m., participants at noon at the Mvskoke Dome. If you'd like to take part in that, they're asking you to wear pink, too.
Hashtag Unity Day, together against bullying, united for kindness, acceptance, and inclusion. Please wear orange. For more information, go to pacer.org/bullying, but wear your orange today for Unity Day.
So it's a colorful day here.
Yeah.
And you're in purple, Warriors.
Purple, yeah.
If you want to know your numbers on your blood pressure and what to do about them, you can sign up for a preventative checkup coming up on October the 30th from 7 to 1 at the Mvskoke Dome. It covers employees and spouses, but I don't imagine they'd turn you away if you showed up and asked. That's the 30th from 7 to 1 at the Dome.
Indian Fall Festival, November 4th. Will be going on, I think, at the Mvskoke Dome, if I'm not mistaken. For more information, contact 918-732-7992.
Coming up November the 15th is America Recycles Day. That'll be Monday, November 14th through the 18th, actually, for a week of recycling events. A lot of different things going on, a collection of your recyclables and things like that from 9 to 12 on Tuesday the 15th. Green Country Shredding will be there for your documents that need to be shredded. I can think of a few at home. 918-549-2580.
2 voting precinct locations have changed for the upcoming general election to be held November 4th. Yardika Precinct will be moved to the Ryle Public Schools, 110-535 South 3960 Road in Henrietta. Also, Dustin Precinct will be moved to the Dustin Public Schools, 203 Wisdom in Dustin, Oklahoma. For more information, please contact the election board and just please contact the main number, 756-8700-918, and ask for the election board. They'll be able to get you more information.
All right. For your Haskell alumni folks out there, they're sponsoring a reunion that'll be coming up at the Tower Hotel in Oklahoma City, October the 27th, 28th, and 29th. That's fun for all. You want to book a room if you're interested through the Tower Hotel there and get a special rate. So for more information, call Liz at 918-557-8590. That'll do it for our announcements here. What do we got time-wise? We got 1 minute to kill. What are you doing Halloween-wise, Darren?
Right now, I'm making my daughter's Halloween costume. I'm going to try my best to probably just stay in. She wants to still do all that stuff. I want to stay in and avoid the clowns. So that's my thing. So.
I have a feeling there are going to be a bunch of them this year. Me, I'm going to be a Roman soldier, so we'll see you over at the Mvskoke Dome for the Kids' Day
awesome
Halloween giveaway. So thank you all for listening. Mado Mabo Hedgetstut, Gary Fife, Joe Jifkados.
Darren DeLongio, Jifkados.
Almost couldn't get that one out. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. But